Hello and welcome in to Football 365. I'm former Auburn quarterback Charlie Trotman, along with Ricky Cotton, former wide receiver at Alabama State University, and the coach, Ed Jones. We're talking football 365 days a year. Coach, there are a lot of quarterback battles going on this spring in spring training around the nation, and Auburn and Alabama also have quarterback battles, but there's some quarterback battles nationally that people may want to keep their eye on.
Well, yeah, that's right. Ohio State, to me, has the most interesting situation. Of course, they won the national championship with their third-string quarterback, Cordell Jones, but during the course of the year, Braxton Miller was the quarterback. J.T. Barrett filled in from him because of a shoulder injury to Miller.
And J.T. Barrett was actually the player of the year in the Big Ten before he got hurt.
And he was headed for Heisman Trophy consideration, and then he broke his ankle, I believe it was, and so the three of them will be vying for the starting job this fall. Now this spring, I don't know if Miller or Barrett can participate, but it's going to be interesting because there is some thought that Miller, who is a senior, if he has graduated basically, and so he could transfer, and he might transfer to LSU, who is void of quarterback at this time and have been for several years. And then Notre Dame, you got the old guy Everett Golson, who lost his job to Malik Zaire, and he's going to try to get that back. That will be interesting. Of course, Florida State now has
they got to find a replacement for Jameis Winston.
That's right, and Sean McGuire is the only quarterback on scholarship that's even taken a snap. So I think they've got a problem down there. And then Baylor, of course, have Seth Russell, who's a junior, and he was a backup last year. Bryce Petty.
Yeah, Bryce Petty was such a phenomenal quarterback for Baylor.
And they got a young freshman named Jarrett Stidman, and he might be known as Studman before the season is over. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Baylor, I don't know. They have LSU has Anthony Jennings, who, we've seen him. They got a young guy named Brandon Harris that they're counting on. And then, of course, if one of those Ohio State guys transfers, he'll be in pretty good shape.
Now, Brandon Harris was the quarterback that he played against Auburn and did not play well and lost the job back to Anthony Jennings for the rest of the year.
So they really starting spring without a quarterback, and as far as I'm concerned, they just for several years LSU has not had an outstanding quarterback. So anyway, then you come to Auburn and Alabama, and they really have some interesting things going at Auburn and Alabama. So
right, Auburn and Alabama have quarterback battles of their own, Ricky, and you know a lot about one of the quarterbacks at Auburn. The heir apparent to Nick Marshall is Jeremy Johnson. Talk a little bit about Jeremy Johnson. He's from right here in Montgomery, Carver High School, and tell us a little bit about what Auburn fans can expect from Jeremy Johnson.
Well, I think Jeremy is going to be more exciting in the running game than people give him credit for. Because I think they've been spoiled a little bit by Nick Marshall, by all the dynamic runs in which he made during the course of the year. But Jeremy, he also has great feet. He's not as elusive as Nick Marshall, but just as powerful and strong a runner, kind of like the big kid at Ohio State.
Right, like Cordell Jones.
Yeah, Cordell Jones with a little bit more speed. And of course, he got the big arm. I'm expecting Auburn to throw the football downfield a little bit more, which they displayed some this year with Nick Marshall. But I'm looking for him to do it even more with the big arm of Jeremy Johnson. I think they done got much better outside the wide receiver position, especially with Duke Williams coming back to school.
Right.
And him being healthy and with the kids that they're bringing in, I'm looking for them to be a lot more explosive downfield with the passing game.
One of the things, Ricky, that is going to take place this spring is Jason Smith, a junior college transfer. Yeah. He is a lot of people are comparing him to Nick Marshall. He's about the same size, was an outstanding quarterback in high school, was an outstanding quarterback in junior college. When he played in the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game, he actually played wide receiver and was the most valuable player in that game. So Jason Smith, you think he could give Jeremy Johnson a run for his money this spring?
I mean, a kid like that, I think he could, but I think it's already carved in stone that Jeremy Johnson will be the quarterback for the Auburn Tigers. But at the same time, I think this kid gonna be able to help them in so many different places on the field. He could play slot, running back. I mean, he's just a dynamic athlete.
Yeah, he
you know,
is.
being in college football, you never can recruit enough quarterbacks. Because coming out of high school, most of the time, your quarterbacks are your most dynamic athletes on the high school football team.
Right.
You know, you can always take them and make free safeties out of them, corners, wide receivers, slots, tailbacks, tight ends, and you never can get enough of them. So I think this kid gonna be able to help them immediately on the field, and he's gonna be a dynamic playmaker for them.
Be interesting. System versus the players. It's a question that a lot of people are talking about. All right, we want to invite you to join us next week, Saturday morning, 11 o'clock, here on Fox 20 for another edition of Football 365.